Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Wake Up to Your Life Magic. My name is Dr. Helmut Lucero-Love, your very happy host. And I'm excited because I love talking about things we're not talking about in today's leadership world. It is a very important time for people to wake up to how important their own leadership in their life, their own little bit of life magic is to the collective experience we're all having. And today I am very, very excited because we are being joined by Mary Kay Hunt. Hello, Mary Kay. How are you?
Dr. Love, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you. Now, where are you sitting? Where are you from, Mary Kay?
So our family is from West Virginia, but I grew up in North Carolina and I live in the coastal region of North Carolina.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we're so glad to have you. And I would like for you to, would you mind telling the audience a little bit about what you do, what you create in the world?
Sure, absolutely. So my passion and my purpose is to create catalysts for positive, purposeful change. And I do that through partnering with leaders and organizations who really want to go to the next level in performance. And I've been doing this 30 years and I don't know how because I'm only 29. So I'm just, do the math. I don't really know how that works.
Oh my goodness. Is the honesty meter broken over there? Or I guess
So
what we believe is true. What we believe is true, right? We are positively manifesting that.
absolutely.
um, So what I love to do when we start the show is really get people to fall in love a little bit more with you, Mary Kay. And that
Aw.
always happens through stories,
Mm.
right? So I'd love to know about something that happened in your life that was a shifting moment that changed something for you, so that people get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest career shifts was when I invested 6 years of my life to pursue dental school. My father was a periodontist and he wanted me to take over his practice. So I took all of my sciences over at UNC Greensboro and at NC A&T State University. I took the dental admission test 3 times, drove from Greensboro to Chapel Hill, which was an hour, 3 different times, and spent thousands of dollars taking this test. And I actually told the story last week in a speech in Texas. So I'm in the lab at my dad's dental office and I'm on the telephone with the dean of the dental school at UNC Chapel Hill. And he's asking me to take the dental admission test another time. And I'm like, dude, I've already taken this 3 times. He said, you've got the thickest file of any candidate that's ever applied to our school. And he said, would you be willing to take the test one more time? And it's like every time I took the test, the organic chemistry scores, the average went up. So the requirement, kept moving up every year. So this is what I said to him. I said, you know what? If you people can't figure out that I need to be in dental school, then I don't need to be in dental school. And I hung up the phone, started to cry. And then I thought, you know what? Doors closed because others are supposed to be open. And this is actually one of the things I shared with you before we started is that I've had so many dentists tell me, I'm glad you didn't get to dental school because you wouldn't be here to help me with my practice and help me with my team. So again, sometimes things are supposed to not work out because the Lord's calling us to do some other things. So it's been a great journey for 30 years to be able to help people in healthcare, outside of healthcare, and really partner with people that believe they've got good people in place or believe that they have an opportunity to learn, grow, and to lead. And just to hear their success stories is beyond just exciting for me.
Yeah, that's an amen. I feel like that is there's a moment for us as humans when we start to understand that lesson. And
Sure.
it's amazing when it happens because once you understand it, when something doesn't work out, it gets faster, right? You go like, oh, that wasn't for me, right? And you move forward and you keep moving towards the goal, despite the current way of how not being what the goal is, right? Like your goal
Sure.
might have been to bless people in your work, and you just didn't know what it's going to be by being. I will actually say you're more impressive in what you did because think about this. That's why I went into healthcare tech. You
Wow.
blessed you blessed many dentists, right? As opposed to being the dentist. So instead
Right.
of helping the patients in just your area, you helped all the patients in all those dentist areas. And so your reach and impact was bigger, Mary Kay. I think God had a plan for you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's interesting because my catalyst moment, if you will, to go into professional development really happened because my first job after undergraduate, I was a restaurant manager at Applebee's, and I was working for this company called Apple South. And their home office was in Greenville, South Carolina, but they had moved me down to Fort Myers, Florida. And I was there for 4 or 5 months and got fired. And I realized that, we can have all the technical skills, we can have, processes in place, but it's our leadership, it's our communication, it's our human relations, our human factors. It's really going to give us that professional edge. So, we only had like 220 employees there, and I got along with everybody except for one manager. And, if you're having conflict with one person, it can cause a door to be shut. And so that really was the inspirational moment for me to learn about a lot of the softer skills, if you will, to give me a leadership edge. And one of the reasons I've been committed to helping others for the majority of my career.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And so tell me with the vision of, if you are successful in building what you are currently building and for the next 10 years in your work, what
Mm.
is the vision or the way that you're wanting to impact the world? So that you can just sort of inspire some of our listeners to understand where your aspiration and intention are.
So, what really came to me last November was an email from a student. He had taken 3 of my leadership programs at the community college in Wilmington, Cape Fear Community College. And he sent an email and he said, Miss Mary Kay, I don't know if you remember me, but I took several of your leadership classes at the college, and I made a huge commitment to apply the principles that you taught. And when I got back to work, I found 2 mentors to help me. And in 1 year, I've gotten 2 promotions. I have a team that reports to me. I care about their goals and their development. And I wanted to say thank you. And I only have a high school degree. And I mean, when I read that, I teared up and I thought, okay, I need to create this legacy library so that people can download my courses and take them because, I've raised 2 children and two husbands and 3 children. And what's interesting about that is that, I used to teach for Dale Carnegie, and they're in 80 countries. It's a franchise model. Zig Ziglar, Jack Canfield. I'm like the chick. I'm the female version of training and development. And so now it's like I feel like I finally have an opportunity to, share my knowledge and package it in a way where people can and purchase a program or do an executive coaching package to really help them go to the next level. And so that's what I'm excited about launching. And the other thing that took a front seat, if you will, last spring is I launched a leadership healthcare podcast. It's called Wondermus. And I'm super excited about it. I've interviewed people from all over the United States and incredible stories about learning lessons and mentors and people that inspired them and risk taking and their fears. And the transparency of the conversations has been off the chart. So I hope people will check that out. Whether you're in healthcare or not, these leadership lessons are just impactful.
They are. And I will say we share a passion in this area. The reason I got into leadership and leadership development with the corporate work I do, but also in the book, the Spiritual Awakening book, which this podcast is named, is because I really truly believe that the mission, the more people that wake up to the fact that they are the leader of
Mm,
their life, they
yes.
are the creator. They're not the creator, but they are a mirror image of the creator. And so much about leadership is actually spiritual. It
Mm,
is about heart and mind alignment with intention for a vision
mm,
that you believe in with faith to create in the words and the actions that you take. So it's so
absolutely.
fascinating to me how these are very aligned things. And so I kind of use that as a segue because this podcast is about how spirituality, how morality, how
Mm,
things like sharing wealth equitably, or something as good old fashioned as heroic masculinity, how do these things play out and having great businesses and having
mm.
great societies, right? And so, my question for you is how do you see spirituality, morality, these things that are about values
Mm.
playing out in leadership? How do you feel that that needs to show up more generally in leadership in the world?
So to me, enthusiasm, right? That the Greek root word of enthusiasm, entheos, is spirit within. So if we're truly looking at the spiritual side of us within, that is part alignment with our core values. And companies have core values, but I think as individuals, we need to have our core values. It's like our internal compass, if you will. It drives our decision making, it drives our ability to influence, our accountability level, because I think true leaders that are walking in faith, that are walking in their centeredness, if you will, of authenticity, they're going to admit when they've messed up, and they're going to also be willing to fail, have that growth mindset to really grow. And I think be willing to have crucial conversations or critical conversations, because I think that's one of the things that I've lost respect for people over the years that might say one thing to my face, but then turn around and do and say something else, or the ones that may they don't walk the talk. And to me, we can lose so much credibility if we don't walk the talk. And it's interesting. I was sharing with a colleague this morning on the phone, and we're looking at potentially partnering in a consulting fashion together. And we were talking about core values, and I said, I've helped hundreds of organizations and people develop their core values over the years, but I never really invested time to do my own. So this is what I came up with. This was a few Saturdays ago: transformation, communication, integrity, dedication, enthusiasm, education, and excellence. I have them on my vision board behind me, so I
There
don't
you
want
go.
to memorize. But here again, everything Coach MK does, whether it's a coaching conversation, whether it is through an email, whether it's through a training session or a keynote, it all has to align with those core values. So here's why I'm sharing that. Leaders take on initiatives that are not in alignment with their core values. It's not going to be a fit. It's not going to work out well. So I think it's our way to hold the mirror up and go, is this a process we should take on? Is this a goal or an initiative we should take on? And oftentimes we're trying to make the bottom line happy or the board members happy. And we really have to look within and look above to make sure that we're heading in the direction that we're supposed to.
I agree. And I find that one of the challenges that we're facing as a society is that it is nearly impossible to succeed um, in a corporate environment and maintain your values.
Hmm.
And I say that because, and don't get me wrong, right? So, letting go of people is something that you have to do to cut things, right? But we have gone to the place where the value of a corporation is to create profit for the shareholders and
Mhm.
value good things for the customer. But the profit piece, the owner, right? I call sometimes corporations modern day plantations, because the owner and him getting or her getting what they want
Mhm.
is so important that the person that's going to remain on the on the chessboard in the leadership room is going to be the person who's willing to do what we need to do to get the profit, right?
Mhm.
And so you find this sort of shedding of, is this really where I want to be? Is this really how I want to be? Employees look at that and they go, is that really where I want to work? I'm just a number here, right? So it plays out, and that's where it's going to take spiritually strong
Mhm.
minded both leaders
Mhm.
and investors, because here's the thing we don't want to admit: if you have a 401k, you are part of this system. We
Mhm.
may turn a blind eye,
Mhm.
right? But we make money off of people who will sell out their values. And I'm not saying that for all corporate leaders.
Oh, sure, sure.
Right.
Well, and that's where I think people have to discern partnering with organizations, because there are some people that's all they care about is money. And if that's what their priority is, good on them. But for me, it's the culture of the organization, the integrity of the leadership, the character, the spirit piece. That to me is critical for success and for peace and happiness.
Yes. And when you find those people, or for people like you and I, Mary Kay, who may go into an organization and reignite, right? Reignite the sense of value and the sense of connection and the sense of, I could tell you that inside of large organizations, when you meet that one leader, they were
Mhm.
usually gold, right? Because
Mm.
that leader would be put over division. People loved them. People would do anything to help them, support them. But it takes a cost because you're the one person
Sure.
organization who might be hitting up against the God is profit, right?
Mm.
Perspective. So I'm
Mhm.
curious about your thoughts regarding spirituality and, well, let's just say morality. How about morality? So we will, in many ways in our culture, we're sort of okay with any way you make money is good money, right? There's a lot of businesses that may hurt people or
Mhm.
take advantage of people's weaknesses, right? Um, what's your advice to someone who is maybe in a profession that they're not really that happy with what they're doing in the world, what they're creating in the world?
Mm. I'm what is coming to my mind is a philosophy of create your best life now. Be the architect of your life. I'm a huge proponent of following my gut. And years ago, I trained as an adjunct hospital chaplain, and our senior instructor gave us that guidance. He said that he believed that your gut spoke to you, and when he felt like his gut was speaking, he felt like that was the Lord talking to him. So oftentimes if I'm deliberating a decision, I will have a strong yes or I'll have a strong no. And that to me is where people need to follow that internal feeling. If it's a strong yes, lean towards it. If it's a strong no, then it's a strong no for a reason. And I know that sometimes people are on this trajectory to grow their career. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's not a good fit. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about in the last few years are boundaries. And in the last a year and a half, I have moved away from toxic people. I've moved away from people that have not followed through on their word because I don't want to give my time to people that are going to take advantage or be mean spirited or be self centered and selfish or harsh. And so the idea is if you're treated well, the boundary's low. If you're treated poorly, the boundary's high. And so, people have to ask themselves, and oftentimes we have to have a position to make the money to provide for our families. I get that. And part of it that is mapping out a plan so that you have a vision for what you want to do, whether it's starting your own business or going to work for a different company, researching the values of the organization or the leadership. I had a great call last week with a gentleman who was a guest on my podcast. He's a CEO of an organization out in Colorado, and so powerful because normally I offer to do a complimentary coaching call for my guests. And I said, "You're really smart. Will you give me a complimentary coaching call?" And he laughed and he did. And what was powerful is I was bouncing ideas off of him of business wisdom because he has just
Mhm.
exploded several different businesses. And at the end of the call, he said, "I'm going to say a prayer for you." It was so powerful, and I just felt so honored. And then he said, "I'm willing to have a call with you in January to help you, with accountability." And I just chuckled. I said, "Absolutely, we're gonna book a date." And here's the thing, I think people have to be willing to have that conversation and take that risk and do the ask, and also visualize what you want to achieve. Because if we're gonna work, oftentimes we're at work more than we're even with our families. So let's make sure that we're doing something that fulfills our passion and our purpose and, our true gifts and talent.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. One of the things you said in there that I want to key in on, it's interesting because you talked about what I call perception, right? Listening to the inner voice that says yay, nay, right? He said was
Mhm.
God's way of speaking to you. And we take for granted that that is a human quality that we have.
Yes.
In my in Wake Up to Your Life Magic, I actually proponent this concept of excellence, and I have
Mm,
a assessment, a 12-point assessment that assesses you in excellence. One of those areas, one of the key three areas for a human in their leadership, is perception.
mm,
Many people with this assessment will do is it'll show you that you're not acting on what you perceive. Okay.
Mm,
And that is so prevalent in many people who look like kind of the people pleasing, the should I don't know if
yeah.
I should, right? Which some executives, especially, you're reading culture, you're trying to figure out what to do based upon others, which is
Mhm.
really not really listening to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or you're in that job because someone said to do it, all the things.
Right.
Um, and I always talk about being human is one of the most important things in this time of
Mm,
AI and tech. And what you're speaking to, Mary Kay, the ability to go inside and trust your gut and
mm.
listen is a beautifully human quality that AI and tech will never have.
No, and they can't hug me. I like to high five at the end of my Zoom calls. AI can't do that. They can't give me a big high five and give me a hug.
Well, the scary part is that it may, one day you have like a little hug buddy. But the reality is, it doesn't have intention. It doesn't have
Mm,
heart, right?
mm,
It doesn't have this most human of things called feeling, which gives us things
mm.
like perception. So I love and I truly, that's where I say that these concepts that we call them soft, they're not soft. Perception is just a human quality, right? It is a skill. It is man, I almost feel like it's one of those things that if we were, preparing for the war of business, right? Raw.
Right.
Perception.
It's also emotional intelligence. And I think,
Yes.
when I first started my sales career in Dale Carnegie 25 years ago, it was really interesting because there's a lot of people out there that would just slam the words soft skills. And I'm like, you know what? They're strategic. They're
Mhm.
human factors that you have to go to the next level. And I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek. And one of the stories that I heard him share is he was working with the Blue Angels, and when they were selecting the top pilot to be the Commodore leader, they don't select the best pilot because oftentimes their ego's so huge they're a jerk. They select the
Yeah.
one that can communicate well and that influences other people and they can have relatability. And to me, we all know people that'll brighten a room by leaving. Let's just not be one of them. And so let's make sure that we are connecting with people and listening and using those intellectual slash emotional qualities that can really help us be a powerful influential person.
100%. In fact, I speak a little to this concept of heroic masculinity, and we have the concepts of I speak about you're a hero as a man when you have dominion over your sexuality. You're
Mhm,
a hero as a man when you defend women, right? But
mhm.
in the corporate setting, there's another level of that, which is to actually adopt the best features of femininity, the
Yeah,
most capable men and women in the boardrooms have balance of both, right? They can sense
absolutely.
the crew, and they can also make hard decisions. They can see the data and be very informed and strategic, but also empathize with other members in the team and bring everyone to agreement together. And it's why I saw female executives, they often came in with that. And what
Mm,
an advantage it was to the boardroom
right.
to have like the women in there. Yeah.
Well,
So,
and
last
it's
question. Yeah,
interesting. It's
go ahead.
interesting. I just want to share this one thing that you say that because I'm a little old school when it comes to and I know that there's been a shift and a wave of the feminine movement, this and that, but I kind of like it when someone opens the door for me. And, I like it when I offer to get someone coffee or when they offer to get me coffee. I think it needs to be supportive. Everybody just needs to support and encourage each other. And if more of us would do that, no matter what our color, what our walk is, we just need to encourage and support each other and not compete with one another. But if we're all working in alignment for the greater good, just think of the momentum that could create.
Absolutely. I'm kind of an old school person this way. not only because I'm a gay man who believes strongly in male and female, though I believe transness exists even in that construct. We had that strong sense of both, and those things teach us things: yin, yang,
Yes.
good, bad, evil. Like the duality of this universe. And I
Mm,
loved, and I still love that. As I raise my daughters, I I I found it an honor to be able to open the door for a woman, right, and
absolutely.
honor her. And then when she turns around and says, "Hey, would you like something?" You're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for thinking of me." I didn't think to think for myself and
When
get a
you
coffee. You're so nice that you did that, right? Um, yeah, but I'll open the door now for a man or a woman.
exactly. Me too.
Because we're humans at the end of the day, and those things it's nice to be loved on, right? Absolutely. So I'm one last question for you in this area of leadership, that I'm going to go to this creator being model that I speak to, right? So I
Mhm.
talked about it a little bit earlier, that we are each creators, and we each have a responsibility to generate in this universe, in this world, right? We all have an opportunity. I'm curious about what you would say, because as we think about AI is enabling us to do all kinds of things. Look at us. We're running a podcast, piping through, right, the ether on multiple channels, available to multiple places. Like we're a whole radio station right here,
Sure.
right, with just one person, right, enabling this. Obviously, many people supporting me. But my point is, AI is introducing how important it is for a person to really truly wake up and find what they want to create, because all the tools are there for them to go out and create something. But you have
Mm,
to be a woken up person, right? You can't just be like, hey, I just want to go get a job somewhere and be asleep at the wheel. What
mhm.
is it that you teach, or how do you convey this to people who are coming to you in leadership? How important it is for them to really be the source or the driver?
Sure.
How do you teach that approach?
So I have a trademarked catalyst methodology, and that there's 5 components. So the first is I want someone to truly discover their purpose. That's their why factor of who they are and why they want to do what they do. And then I want them to really look at their individual strengths, right? And focus on what they do well. Because oftentimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for, our natural abilities. Then I want them to look at the processes that they're using, whether it's a business process or whether it's, a strategy to help them as a leader get to the next level. Then are we monitoring our performance? I'm reading the book Atomic Habits right now, and I'm super
So
goal
good. So
Love it,
good.
love it, so good. But here's the thing, performance, right? We don't even give ourselves a pat on the back if we're doing well. We just move the bar up more. But monitoring not just performance at work, but outside of work. So having that work-life integration is super important. Then I want people to look at the processes that are involved. And then the key to all of this is communication. What's our self-talk? How are we communicating to other people? What messaging are we sending to the organization? And so I use that methodology to wrap around to get to know them as an individual, and then to map out a coaching strategy or a development process so that we can help take them from point A to point B, oftentimes identifying roadblocks, challenges, and oftentimes we've got some people on the team that really need to bloom somewhere else.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I love that you have a whole catalyst. You call it the catalyst method, right?
Catalyst methodology, yeah. Mhm.
And it's so interesting to me. I want you all as listeners and viewers to note that there is this element again of you went to purpose, you
Mm,
went to skills, right? And then sort of fulfilling that. And those are, you know, we each have our own unique purpose that's each defined by our own unique set of experiences.
mhm.
And that's why it's so important for you to wake up to the fact that there is literally something you're meant to do while you're here. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. Well, and
And
you read, Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life? That was
uh-huh.
that was powerful. That was one of my early reads in my career that really solidified that I'm supposed to be in professional development. So, and again, what we read, who we surround ourselves with, the programs that we take, when we decide to learn and grow, then we do lead on a new level. So it's got to be a commitment to lifelong learning.
One thing I want to mention, because you mentioned the atomic habits, that I led a book study on that in Atlanta. It was gays and girls.
Oh, great.
And what the amazing sort of like next take of that book was that we have these habits. The book's a brilliant book about you become your habits become you, right? And it was about physical habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about all the mental,
Mm.
emotional,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual habits, right?
Yes. Mm.
Allowing ourselves to feel pity instead of self-love, allowing ourselves to feel angry instead of encouraged, right? Like,
Mhm.
just so interesting, the habits that we choose. Um, yeah. So I'm curious, as we kind of I love to ask this question. Actually, two more questions for you, Mary Kay.
Mhm.
One is around vulnerability around your business. So we come onto these, podcasts that speak about business and leadership, and we don't always like to show, hey, this is a challenge for me. This is
Sure.
something that's difficult. But when we do, so many people feel a sense of like, wow, okay, I'm not alone. What is something that you find challenging in your present business and working your present work?
I try to do too many things. So I'm a I'm an activator. I love to make things happen, but oftentimes I have to dial back my passions because I can help a lot of people and make no money. So I have to be very mindful of who I give my time to. My Mayan Indian symbol is an owl, and I have a hand painted owl, and I've got them all over the place. But I have one in my bedroom, and then I've got them in my office. I have them everywhere, and so every time I look at it, I'm like, are you being wise with your choices? Are you being wise with your decisions? Are you being wise with your time? Are you being wise with who you allow in your life? So it's my own personal way to hold myself accountable. And I have a woman that's been a colleague of mine for 20 plus years. I call her my chief strategy officer. So we have a weekly call, and where I'll bounce my ideas off of her. And because being the main chick, the main dudette of my company,
Right?
I've got to have somebody kind of hold me
You
accountable.
do. You do. You do. I really appreciate that. You remind me of a very good German friend of mine who also collected owls all over the place, and I loved it. But I feel seen. I feel like
Mm,
we're mirrors of each other on that. I'm very similar. I get so excited and I go do a million things, and I can
mhm.
forget to take care of myself, and I can forget to take care of making money, which is important.
Right,
Um,
absolutely.
last question. What's like a thing that you learned in your
Mhm.
life that you would readily encourage someone else to be sure, hey, don't learn this the hard way. Take Mary Kay's advice.
Just be willing to go for it, and give yourself permission to try, give yourself permission to go for the goal. And oftentimes we'll discover certain things about ourselves that help build our confidence, that help build our leadership, that help really take us to the next level. But we have to be willing to have that growth mindset and take a risk and give it a go.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Mary Kay.
Mm.
I would like you all to know that you can reach out um, to Mary Kay at www.coachmkay.com. That's coachmkay.com to learn more about her services and about her. And she may have some free things there for you. You can check it out. Mary Kay, is there anything you'd like to close out with as we think about waking up as people to how important our life magic is?
Absolutely. Just remember, every single day is a new beginning, and you are allowed to not be the person that you were 5 minutes ago. So I like to say, etch a sketch it. I'm dating myself, but just etch a sketch everything that's ever happened, learn from it, build on it, and make tomorrow the best possible ever.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mary Kay. And thank you,
You're
audience, for joining me for another dialogue about how important it is to wake up to who we are, why we're really here, and how that plays into a greater story for us all together. Have a great time until we talk again.
blessings.